Society, in my opinion, guys, and I know how egotistical this sounds, but it's not really. Like I've figured out the mysteries of life. No, it's not that. It's just that I spent a lifetime investigating things, and I can only share some of the conclusions, for lack of a better word, that I've come up with in my investigations. And I believe that for the most part, I've penetrated certain things due to deep fascinations more than a lot of people. And so when I tell you that, um, I believe that society has mistakenly placed too much importance on in, on the the apparatus of thinking, that is not an egotistical comment coming from me. That is just something I've investigated and realized that everything great often does not come from thinking, and that overthinking is one of society's greatest problems. Yet we're taught that the thinking man is the hero. We're told as children, think, son, think. You're not thinking. And most of great things have not come from thinking. All right. The thinking is a tool. It is not useless. It does have a value, but it is like a hammer in a toolbox. And if you use the hammer for what you should be using a screwdriver for, and when you use a hammer when you should be using a saw, and you use a hammer for when you should be using a pencil to draw a line on, and when you use a hammer for everything, it stops being something beneficial. It starts being stupid. And thinking is only a very small corner of life, and it's only very valuable in a very small corner of life, but we overuse it for everything. So we've got one tool in our toolbox, thinking, the hammer. And we go around applying the hammer to everything. And if you think about it, if you take thinking too far, right? Thinking becomes insanity. So think about that. That insanity is overthinking. That should be the message right there. I mean, I've always used this as an example. You see someone on the corner, homeless, talking to themselves, actually fighting with imaginary people, arguing, cursing on the corner. What is that person's enemy? His thoughts. He's got too many of them. Right? He's a victim of his own mind, his own crazy thinking. Right? So that should tell you that thinking can't go so far. That there's a certain point where it stops being beneficial. And so I've come to realize that the best way to train traders is to remove them from the thought process, to actually create something that is the replacement for their thinking, and that is a list or a plan. Your plan is the replacement of your thinking. You're not supposed to be thinking. You're supposed to be determining what's next on that piece of paper, not what you think is next. I think therefore I am, and I think more, and there I am again. That's right. Yeah, I actually do not agree with Descartes in that regard, that I think therefore I am. I think it's almost absolutely reverse. Well, yes, the list is, the purpose of the list is to replace you. And what I mean by you is the ego you. And the ego you is thought. All right. The real you is not a thought, all right? You can witness a thought, but you can't be a thought, okay? So um, the problem, what so many people don't understand what ego is. They use it, they think they understand, but they've never investigated what exactly is ego. Where is it? Show it to me. What creates ego? All right. And it's quite simple. All right. It's the confusion that, or the mistaken identity of who you are. It is the age-old mistake of believing that you are the voice in your head, that you are your thoughts. That is what creates ego. So in a sense, you have transferred what you are to your thoughts. And it is this that becomes the representative of you. It is not you, but it is what, and the more you do that, the more you lose control of who you are, and the more powerful your thinking apparatus becomes. And this thing grows, and that's what ego is. It grows to the point where it actually controls you. This is the reason why you can't do what you want to do, that there is something else in control, and you can't want to do this, but something doesn't allow me to. That's living proof that you have lost control, that you are misidentifying who you are, because no one in your world has control except you, but you have misidentified who you are. This is the original sin. This is called, if you look up the Latin word for, I think it's the Greek word, if I'm not mistaken, for sin, the root word is interpreted as to miss the mark, right? To miss the mark. And that's the original sin of man, which is to misidentify, miss the mark of who I am. And everything goes downhill from that. Like once you don't know really, once you mistake who you are, everything is wrong from there, right? Everything. And so the return back to this state of power, the state of regaining yourself, being born again, whatever terminology you want to use for it, people throughout history have used different ways to explain this realization of who I really am. Religion has explained it one way. The psychiatrists, the psychologists have explained it another way. Philosophy, the mystics have explained it all different ways, but it's all the same. It's all about a return. All the stories are about a return back to the realization of who you are. The story of the prodigal son returning back to the Father's house. The story of Jesus Christ being resurrected back. I go back to my Father. The story of the return back to Eden. The story of losing your life to gain your life. Everything is the story of the return from the search for the Holy Grail to return back to the tree where the Holy Grail is. It's a rediscovery, a return back to who you really are. And that is the ultimate purpose in life, the return. And so this very act of trading is actually, in a microscopic way, something grander than buying something for $1 and selling it for $2, because it is the mechanism that can help you achieve something far grander than money, the rediscovery of who you are, the dropping of this obsessive thinking, this being crippled by your thoughts, being controlled by every little whimsical thought that runs through your mind, to recapturing that power of who you are and witnessing thoughts as powerless. And the ultimate, that's the ultimate state, to become immovable, to become almost stationary in a very powerful way, to be able to stand still and not be knocked or moved or shoved or whimsically influenced, to be whole, to be indivisible, not broken up into a million different, not fragmented into a million different thoughts. Do you know how many times you have conflicting thoughts in a 24-hour period? It's in the millions. That's insanity, right? That's insanity. And one of the goals should be to escape that insanity, to rise above it, actually. And the first step is to separate yourself from your thoughts, realize that what's being thought is not you, nor is it from you, and then to start focusing on the spaces between your thoughts, which will make the spaces wider and wider, right? And that is what the act of meditation is. The act of meditation is to focus on the spaces between your thoughts, to let the thoughts pass. But what's behind the thoughts? There's something. What's in between? When one thought stops and before another thought begins, there's something there. What is that? And then who's watching that whole process? Who's watching you trade? Are you the trader, or are you the thinker that is influencing the trader? Are you the thoughts themselves, or are you the doer, or are you watching the doer? Like, these are things that have to be discovered for yourself. I can't do that. I can point you there, but this is the beauty that I found in trading, that it served as a vehicle to help me look deep within myself and to see the cracks in the wall, to see the faults in how I live, to catch the little tiny errors or mistakes that are at the core of much bigger things, not just trading. When I discovered that this was a way toward becoming more enlightened for myself, it took on a completely different meaning. It took on a different level for me. It stopped being something to just achieve money or wealth with. And so today, I use it more as a cloak. I use it more as a diversion, if you will. I understand that the teaching is deeper than making a dollar in the stock market. But I use making a dollar to have you work on things that are bigger, right? Because there's nothing wrong with being enticed by the dollar if by being enticed by the dollar, you're brought to a much more priceless, valuable promised land, right? Who's Ken Roberts, by the way? How long in your career did you see this aspect of trading? Actually, quite rapidly, to be honest with you. I would say in the first year and a half or so. Yeah. But I've always been a questioner. I've always questioned myself. So, and I always understood to be careful not to come to a conclusion very rapidly, because the moment you come to a conclusion, right, you end the process of intelligence. Conclusions end intelligence. So inquiry is intelligence. But when you conclude, you have said, I have ended inquiry. I don't need to inquire anymore. I know, and that ends the process of intelligence. And so this is why I mentioned this to you before. When in the process of discovering truth, you must keep inquiry open. And this is why our Socratic method of law is based on only inquiry. Like lawyers are not allowed to make a statement which ends the inquiry process. They are only allowed to question. So it's designed to find the truth through inquiry, not through conclusion, right? And Socrates was the master of this, and we grabbed his Socratic method of always asking a question to discover truth. And so I was always influenced by Socrates. I was always a questioner. I would question myself over and over again for the simplest things. Oliver, why would you do that? And I wouldn't allow myself to come to a conclusion. I'd let that question linger and reverberate in my soul. And I could feel the question alive, working. It's crazy. And this was my path. This was my path of self-discovery. I used trading to educate myself on everything, not just how to make money. It made me explore all types of different things. Because once you have accepted the notion, the very true notion that you must become better, and then you must take that better you into the market to produce better results. Once you grab that and you realize it's not becoming a better trader, it's not getting better techniques, it's actually I have to rise to a higher level myself first. I have to improve. I have to become better. I have to become more enlightened. I have to become more disciplined. I have to become more informed. I have to become more educated. And then once I have become better, I take this better version of me into the market, and that automatically creates a better set of results. And so once you realize that, you become obsessed with working on you, working on what you hang the letter I on. And that is what is so carelessly done by the vast majority of people. They hang this letter I, this pronoun that's supposed to be them. They hang it on anything except the right thing, right?